Hey guys, Sean here and welcome to the F1 Word. Now, it's been a frustrating start to the 2021 season for Valtteri Bottas as he sits just 4th in the standings, 58 points behind Max Verstappen, 54 behind Lewis Hamilton, and he even trails Lando Norris by 9 points. And whilst we have only had 5 races, to be fair, so far this year, if the Finn wants to win the World Championship, it is starting to get to the point where he needs to go on a run of results that will pull him back into contention. So today, I'm quite simply asking, is the Azerbaijan Grand Prix this weekend a must-win for Bottas? Before I go any further, yes, I know there have only been a handful of races and there are still up to 18 to come, and I'll admit, it does seem a little bit crazy to be making this video so early on in the season. I did say, though, during the Monaco Grand Prix preview that it's not quite now or never for Bottas, but it was certainly heading that way, and a DNF in the Principalities left him well adrift of the top 2. More on that in just a moment. So no, it is not mathematically a must-win, as there is still plenty of time and plenty of points available for him to turn this around. In fact, with a maximum of 26 points available each weekend, obviously including that point for fastest lap, and of course 9 more on the table thanks to the 3 sprint qualifying sessions planned, there is a maximum total of 477 points still to be claimed. Therefore, that 58-point gap to Verstappen and the 54-point deficit to his teammate seems pretty insignificant in the grand scheme of where we are in terms of the number of races still to go and, of course, the points still up for grabs. However, realistically speaking, Bottas needs results and he needs them fast. The question we really need to be asking at this point, though, is not so much can Bottas do it, but can we see Verstappen dropping at least 58 points to Bottas between now and the end of the season, or Hamilton dropping 54 to his teammate? When it comes to the latter, I can't see it, and past seasons kind of back that up. And just to clarify, by the way, to avoid any kind of confusion, by dropping points to teammate, what I mean is how many points Bottas outscored Hamilton by when he finished ahead of him at a race. So, for example, Bottas finished first in Austria last year and Hamilton was 4th, so the Brit dropped a total of 13 points to his teammate at that race. If we apply that to each of the last 3 seasons, in 2018 Hamilton dropped just 17 points to Bottas. In 2019 it was 38, and in 2020 he lost just 34 if we include Sakir where Hamilton didn't race. It does not take a genius to work out that all of those fall well short of 54. So even if he was able to claw back the deficit to Verstappen, it will be tough to pick off Hamilton as well. But it must be said, if Red Bull can keep delivering the car and Verstappen keeps performing, how he fared against the Finn in past seasons is really irrelevant, as the car he was driving was substantially inferior to the Mercedes. So the comparison to Hamilton is a fairer one in the context of, let's say, can Bottas overturn the deficit? And yeah, I get that comparing Hamilton and Bottas is often seen as unfair, and I do largely agree because, well, with all due respect to him, Bottas is not on the same level as Hamilton. I don't think that's a controversial statement. I think that's a well-known fact. But if he wants to win the title, then Captain Obvious alert, he has to beat Hamilton and everybody else in order to do so. And he believes he can, which is why I find it perfectly reasonable to compare him to his teammate in this situation. He said over the winter that he was ready to come out fighting this year and be, quote, a bit more selfish versus Hamilton in order to win the title. And whilst we have seen very brief snippets of that, it seems to be heading the same way as his I have a plan to beat Hamilton line from winter 2020, which is nowhere, quite frankly. That might sound harsh, but I'm afraid to say it's true. He never looked anywhere near the title last year and is already 58 points off the top after just 5 races this year. Now, it's got to be said, on this season, he has had some rotten luck. There is no getting away from that. I mean, the fact his wheel nut wouldn't shift for about 3 days in Monaco and that forced him into retirement is just bad luck. There was nothing he could have done about it, and prior to that, he was looking good for P2, which would have been a great result to really kickstart his season. He was beating Hamilton comfortably. However, he was well off his teammate come the end of the race in Spain and well off in Portugal, although to be fair, he did make an extra pit stop, so that explains much of the gap. And that was a very similar story for Bahrain. Big gap to the winner at the end, but an extra pit stop was made. But he never, to be fair, really looked like challenging the top 2 in that race. And you know, wherever you want to point the finger of blame for the crash between Bottas and Russell at Imola, the fact of the matter remains that the Finn was driving a Mercedes and should not have been fighting with a Williams in the first place unless he was trying to lap him, and then he gets blue flag, so it wouldn't even be a fight. I know it was wet, but that's no excuse. A Mercedes should not be fighting a Williams. Now, to cover my back on this one, that is not to say that I'm blaming Bottas at all, but come on, he should not have been anywhere near Russell. But anyway, whichever way you look at it, it's all ended up with him being a long way off the top already, and it's going to be a real uphill battle for him if he wants and truly believes he can win the World Championship. Something that might help him out this year, though, is the fight between Hamilton and Verstappen. Both of those drivers will be willing, as we've already seen, to get their elbows out and battle hard. So one mistake on either side, which sees them both in the wall and out of the race, and suddenly Bottas almost halves that deficit, assuming of course he wins. I guess the point I'm making is whilst we can compare drop points from previous seasons as I did earlier, 2021 potentially isn't the same as Hamilton just disappearing into the distance unchallenged. Red Bull are right in there too, and that adds a whole other variable. There is also the possibility that once Perez is up to speed, he could start taking points away from Hamilton and flipping that around, also taking points away from Bottas. For me though, all of that adds even more urgency to his current situation. If he does not get that gap down soon and bring himself back into play, there is going to inevitably become a point where Mercedes will have to prioritise Hamilton in the fight against Verstappen, and that will leave the Finn as a proper out-and-out number 2 for the rest of the year. Now, I know many of you will argue in the comments that he is already that anyway, but Mercedes, for the most part, shy away from using him in the same way Red Bull will use Perez, and Ferrari, for example, have used Irvine, Barrichello and Massa in the past. But if the titles are on the line, they're going to have to do that. And if that happens, any slim hopes of winning the title will evaporate immediately. And I suppose you could argue as well that the next few races are crucial when it comes to his future. If he struggles to claw it back and or starts to fall well short of the top 2 on track, or even starts losing out to Perez, the team may well look at how things are going and think, is he doing anything a Russell or an Ocon or whoever else couldn't do? Obviously, we can discuss this another day. It's all speculation at this stage as well, but it's something worth bearing in mind. Equally, is he going to want to stay on and play number 2? I don't know. Like I say, we can go over this in a future video, but it's a point I feel really needed to be made at this stage briefly. Thinking about it, Baku may not be a must-win, but it is certainly a must-beat one or the other of Hamilton and Verstappen. I guess, though, having said that, if you're beating them, it's likely for the win. So actually, yeah, it probably is a must-win, having said all of that. Thanks, Brain. Have you missed my waffles? I'm sure you have. Anyway. And Baku is generally a good track for him. He finished 6th for Williams in 2016, 2nd for Mercedes in 2017, could well have won in 2018 without that puncture, and did win in 2019. So he clearly enjoys something about the circuit, and so in many ways it's good that this race has arrived when it has. Now obviously, one race does not instantly turn things around. He needs to go on a run of form if he stands any chance of winning this title. Again, that's something he believed he could do at the very start of the season. And do you know what? I would like to think he still believes he can, because if he's not targeting that, something is seriously wrong. Drivers want to win, and I have no doubt he will want to fight all the way to the end until it is mathematically impossible. But wow, is it going to be a tough task for him, and he knows that. He's not bloody stupid. Prior to Monaco, he was saying he needed a result, so he'll know he needs one even more now. Do I think he's in this title battle? Honestly, sorry, no, I don't. Again, past seasons show that Hamilton doesn't drop many points to Bottas, and Red Bull is a whole other animal this year. So it's not just a case that he's taking on his teammate. There are others there to take points away from him, and of course his teammate, as I said earlier. But it's not just a straight fight between him and Hamilton. At this stage, though, let me make this clear. Bottas is a very good driver. I am not denying that for 1 second. As we've said in streams before, and as many people have said elsewhere, beating Hamilton in equal machinery, even if it is only odd races, still proves that he has some serious talent and some serious speed. Just think back to 2019, where despite the fact Hamilton is seen as one of the best qualifiers in F1, he secured the same number of poles as his teammate. Although, yes, he did lose out 14-7 overall, but again, the point is Bottas has the speed. What he seems to lack is the ability to do that consistently, and that is why I don't see him bringing himself back into play. He needs a run of big results, ideally wins, and the fact of the matter is he has never won back-to-back Grand Prix. He still has a very big part to play, though, if he doesn't close the gap, and my go-to line when defending Bottas is always he's doing the job he was employed to do, which is helping the team to win Constructors' titles, and so that's probably what we are looking at again from him this season. I would love to see him right up there and get involved in that championship battle and close the gap. I really would, because, well, quite frankly, the more the merrier, but I just don't see it. However, as is always the case with Bottas, I want him to prove me and everybody else wrong on that, and that can and must start in Baku. Austria isn't far away either, and he seems to enjoy that circuit too, and we have 2 races there as things stand. So let's say a win at one of those races, pick off one of either Hamilton or Verstappen at the other, and a podium in France, and things could very quickly start to change. But for the title, and yeah, do you know what? For his own confidence as well, it has to start in Baku, and that's why, as it turns out, I do see it as a must-win race for Bottas. That is it for this one then, but you can let me know your thoughts on all of this waffle in the comment section down below. Do you agree that Baku is a must-win for Bottas? Or do you believe he can still bring himself right back into the title fight, even if he doesn't come out on top at the weekend? Now, I will be back later this week, Thursday in fact, with the Baku preview. But in the meantime, if you did enjoy this video, I did. It's been a while since I've had a really good waffle at you all. But if you too enjoyed it, then please do leave a like, as it really helps out the channel. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. Lots to come now this year, including a brand new podcast which launches next week. So keep an eye out for that if that is your thing. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.